time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace and former Ottawa Senator Jason York.
Hi, everybody. Yorkie, how is your pickleball tournament going on in Florida?
That's tomorrow. We got a schedule here we got to stick to. Pickleball tomorrow. We had golf today. Went to this very interesting restaurant last night. Anyone's ever been to Naples? It's called Seed the Table. It's basically a grocery store that turns into a bar at night. So you're basically in a grocery store and it's a bar, and it's I believe it's the guy that owns the grocery store is a huge Donald Trump supporter. So the whole one of the things when you go to the bathroom in the urinal, Wally, there's a picture of Joe Biden's face.
Oh, this is not the start I was looking for.
Only in Florida.
Listen, I don't want to waste any more time because Jamie McLennan's got a show to do at 4:00 that, by the way, millions of people listen to every day. So let's get him right into the show. Noodles, live from Mission Control. How are you, sir?
Noodles. I wanted to hear the Biden story. I was enjoying that.
Well, see, Noodles, you and I get entertaining. Wally is all about he's got a set agenda and business like it's
he wants to get to the hard-hitting facts. He wants to get to the questions. Right? You and I.
No, listen. I just didn't want to waste your time.
Yeah, we're like kids. We get distracted. Oh, look, there's something over here. Let's talk about that. I mean,
Noodles wants to hear about when you go to the bathroom and see the table. There's basically a picture of Joe Biden's face in the urinal, and that's where you go to the bathroom.
Hey, there you go. I mean, I was listening to you tell the story too. I mean, think about it. What a great idea for a restaurant. You're never going to run out. If you're at a grocery store, you're never going to run out of supplies. You'd be like, oh, you know what? I'll go over to aisle 6 and get some sugar and make some cookies. And, to me, I think it's a great idea. And only in Del Boca Vista or wherever the hell you are, that's going to work, right? Because, I feel like I hear you're in Florida. I hear a bunch of noise in the background before we get going. I'm like, this guy is literally at a retirement home. And what is George Costanza and Jerry's parents? Is that Del Boca Vista? And
Del Boca Vista.
Yeah, there it is. That's you. That's you enjoying your life.
Noodles, this place, Seed This Table, this was like vintage cowboys from Calgary back in the day.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, am I really in Naples right now? Like average age is supposed to be 80. I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, keep in mind they had to bulldoze that Cowboys in Calgary to get rid of all the stories and all of the things that happened there. So you don't want that to happen to this poor guy's grocery store and restaurant.
Yeah, there's bones flying out of the closet all over the place in there.
Exactly. Well, it's good to be here. Ollie, great to see your smiling face.
Yep.
It's always good to see you. I got to say before we get underway, your show is wildly entertaining. I don't know how you do it 5 days a week, but it is a well-run, well-oiled machine. I just enjoy it.
I don't know how we do it. I feel like, that's chaos makes it somehow like we're all three of us are disasters until the mics go on. And then you're like, oh, okay, we got a show to do here. And this is why what attracted me to the urinal story, because I feel like that's a topic that is like, we will spend 45 minutes on and dissect and tell stories about. So I feel at home. It's a little warm up for my show. I love it.
Fair enough. You can use that. It's all yours. Before we get any further, I do want to address sad news today, obviously in the broadcast world. As we all know, Bob Cole, legendary broadcaster, died today at 95. He was a legend without question. All of us had worked with it or around him at some point, right? On the road. Noodles, like you knew when you were around Bob Cole, it was just, there was an aura around him, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I never, obviously working for a different company, I never got an opportunity to work with him. But, the beautiful part about it is in the hockey world, we always attach ourselves to something. So when I heard the news, this afternoon, we all have our own little memory of, I've been fortunate enough. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have met him and worked with him and all of that type of stuff or worked with him. And to me, I've only I never worked with him, but I crossed paths with him at the rink. And, I laugh because, I talked to Greg Millen, I worked Mike Johnson and guys who have actually worked with him. And I always ask, like, what's it like? And they're like, until you actually experience it, you don't, you can't explain it. And, in the color world and in the media world, it was really fascinating to hear how he worked. Like he didn't want the color guy to talk when the puck was dropped. And there were certain rules that he had, which I respect so much, because we forget sometimes in our business, we're in the entertainment business. And growing up, I remember Bob Cole and some of his greatest calls, but I attribute my childhood in watching Hockey Night and Hockey Night in Canada. That was Bob Cole and Harry Neal. Like those were guys that you never knew them personally, but you felt like you were attached to them because you felt that they were sitting on the couch next to you watching the game and just doing play-by-play in color. So I respected them a ton. Obviously, it's sad news. He lived a great life. Fortunate enough, again, to meet him and talk with him. And I said this before, and I still believe this is surreal and weird in my lifetime. There's people that are icons and living legends and legends that you come across, and you go to introduce yourself, and it's weird when they know who you are or know your name.
Yes,
that has always been something very weird for me, because I always feel like I'm on the outside looking in. You're at a zoo and everybody's inside, and you're on the outside, like banging on the glass. And I remember going up to Bob Cole to just say hi. And he was like, "Hey, Jamie," like it was like he knew my name. And I thought that was very, very surreal. That is one of the things I remember, because I was like, obviously he might have called a game that I was in or backed up in, whatever, all of that. He would know who I was, but I forget he knew who I was. And that was really weird for me and surreal. And I take that to heart. And I obviously very special person, very sad day, but we all have great memories of him.
I love when he used to call games with Harry Neal. Like I thought those two were so good together. But I was lucky, Noodles. I got a chance to do a game with him.
Really?
And it was when I was doing color for Sportsnet. It was a game in Washington, and I'd heard all the stories. If you're working with Bob, you got to be out. And for people that don't know the business of doing color, as Jamie said, your job as the color guy is as soon as the puck is dropped, you're supposed to get out. A lot of guys linger longer and they'll talk and whatever. And with Bob, you have to get out. So the first thing he says in the box to me, he's like, "Jason," almost at the Bob Cole voice. He's like, I like to set the tone, but set the stage before the puck is dropped. So can you get out just before puck drop? I'm like, "Bob, I will be out 2 seconds before the puck is dropped." So like clockwork, I made sure I gave at least 2 seconds. Yeah. And after the game, he's like, "Boy, I like working with you, Jason. You get out on time," because that was his thing, right?
Yeah.
And I remember too, he didn't have a phone at the time. So the way Bob and I communicated that road trip is I had to call him in his room, or he called me in my room. And this wasn't that long ago. And we had to meet in the lobby. We went down in the rink. He told some great stories on the cab ride and the way up about some of the coaches that he liked, because we all interview the coaches before the game and talk to the coaches. But just, it was so much fun to do that one game with Bob and to hear the voice and be sitting beside him. And you hear all the stories, but until you did it, it was a pretty cool moment in my broadcasting career.
Yeah, that would be intimidating. For me, it'd be intimidating, because you're like, okay, you want to make sure you're trying to get a thought, you're trying to be sharp, but you also got to get out before he either gives you the hand or like waves you off. Or that would be my biggest fear, is having him pissed at me like 5 minutes into the game and him just glaring at you the whole time. You're like, "Oh God." So
when John Bartlett and I used to do games, because Bart's who works for Sportsnet now, doing a great job in the playoffs, by the way, Bart's, we used to tell Bob Cole stories in the box all the time. And when they come into you for another game, Noodles, we're coming in live from New York, and Bart's would always do it in the Bob Cole voice. He goes, "Welcome in from the New York game. We're here live in Montreal." It was just, everybody talked about him because he was such an icon and just so good for the game.
Yeah. Missed for sure, but absolute legend. And I mean, it was just an amazing guy to be around. So I do, it's a sad day, but I do appreciate the long life that he enjoyed. Also, he was like a champion curler.
Is he?
Yes, I think he went to the Briar, if I'm not mistaken,
He's like this big too. He was just
No,
a tiny little man. Like I can't imagine him like rolling the rock. It just. I love it though. I mean, again, that's the ignorance of me. I'm sure he was brilliant at it, but in my mind, all he did was sit and call games all day long, no matter what. Didn't do anything else but call games. I didn't know that he was an unbelievable curler.
Yes, I'll have to. Someone will find it, but I do have to find it at some point. Anyway, I want to move on because I know you don't have a lot of time. So wait a sec. Cole was in 1971 and 75 Briars as the skip for the Newfoundland team. Also, he played the 65 and 73 Canadian Mixed Championships. So there you go.
All right.
Okay, getting on to the Sens. We can get to the playoffs in a sec, but you know what? Sorry. I want to get to the goalie situation in Boston right now. I don't understand changing the goalie. If you win game one, I don't care that you've rotated all year long. You have now given an excuse if you lose the game and it causes a complete distraction. Jamie, you're a former goalie coach, a broadcaster. Explain to me that you would do the same thing that they have done in Boston and rotate goalies.
I think, okay, obviously the easy answer is they've done it now 30 games in a row. Like that was, I think last night was game 30 where it's like, you're going. So I'm going to step back from this and remove like any like emotion out of it. I think Swayman's a 1. I think they actually both are 1s.
Yeah.
But are they 50 game 1s? Are they 55 game 1s? Are they 60 game 1s? Like there's about 8 guys in this league where general managers they go to bed at night going, Hellebuck's playing tomorrow. Demko's playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sturkin. You've got Vasilevsky. You've got 8 guys. Outside of that, this is a tandem world. And the degrees of tandem, it's different because, for example, I think Stuart Skinner played too much this year in Edmonton. But, Pickard, they got him some games near the end. It was supposed to be Campbell and Skinner. It didn't work out. But there are guys who are 50-game starters. We'll call them 50-game starters. But you need somebody to play 35 games if you're only a 50-game starter. Right now, the way that it's set up is both of those guys are 42-game starters, 41. We'll call it, you're going to get pulled a few times, sure. Sickness, whatever. That's what they know. That's what they are. So I understand. I think Swayman can start 6 games in a row, whatever. Allmark started 6 games in a row last year. They deviated from the plan. And then by the time they hit the ditch, they couldn't get it back. Mm-hmm. And it was now game 5, we wouldn't be talking about this story if they win if Marchand would have scored on that breakaway on Bobrovsky with 7 seconds left. Series is over, done. He doesn't. They storm back. They play Allmark for 6 games. They go to Swayman in game 7. Swayman was fine, but they end up losing. They broke the plan. I think there was a plan coming into the playoffs going, we're going to rotate the first couple games, and then we're going to see what happens after that. So I'm not 100% convinced they'll come back with Allmark on Saturday, but I wouldn't be surprised. And here's the other thing. You got to also anticipate, like, the Leafs are going to have a response. So maybe that's a game where it's like, we need the other guy to go in and stand on his head and steal this game. And, so again, this isn't Kiprusoff McLennan, like
I understand,
but it's believe me, I do understand what everybody's saying, but I with their mindset, I can see exactly what they're doing. It's like we pissed away what happened last year, the greatest regular season, and in the playoffs we're in good shape and we choked it off. We're going to stick with the plan. Here's the other thing. If you ask the guys, and Yorkie, I'll put this back to you. You ask the guys in the dressing room. I think they believe in both of those guys. Like, think of this. They won game 1. Okay. Jeremy Swayman wins game 1 and was great. They were going to a Vezina winner the next night. It's not the drop off. You're not going to, the Craig Anderson to, who was backing him up, Anders Nielsen. Like it's stuff like you're going from a Vezina winner to a Vezina finalist, like back and forth. So it's a counterpunch. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, if Boston goes to Allmark Saturday, they're like Montgomery might say to him, you got to steal us this one on the road because the Leafs are going to have an advantage. And I want to play Swayman in game 5 coming back and maybe we can knock them out here if we can steal one on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think there is a method to the madness. I know it's frustrating people, but if they stick with it, you can't really fault them on it. If Allmark, I thought Allmark played really well in game 2. It wasn't his fault they lost.
But it just allows you that one opportunity to create the distraction. That's all and
I
people
agree.
hate that in the playoffs.
And I've heard this saying in football, if you have 2 number 1 quarterbacks, you don't have one at all. Because if one guy falters, you're going, should have started the other guy, should have gone. And that is going to be. You heard a little whisper out of there after game 2 in Boston going, well, Swayman would have stopped that Matthews breakaway. Well, maybe Swayman doesn't stop that Yarncroke on the goal line glove save, and like to me, there's a bunch of what ifs. If you win, you don't have to answer for it. If you lose, you have to answer for everything.
And that's all I need is if Swayman loses game 2, then you go to Allmark in game 3 to me.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, then you just leave him there. Anyway. I'm not the coach in the national.
What's something you said earlier there, Noodles, that you believe Swayman is a one. There's something different. They're both great goalies. Swayman to me just seems like he has a little more moxie.
He does.
A little more cockiness to him, which I think is really important in a number 1. I like how he carries himself, and he's not afraid of the spotlight.
Smiling. Like yesterday, his mask gets knocked off. It's a 3-minute delay. They're on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
He's looking in the crowd, smiling. I'm sitting on my couch. I go, what the hell are you smiling at? You're trying to defend a 2-1 lead. But like me, I knew what I was as a player. I would be just terrified. God, drop the puck. Can we have straight time? Let's try and defend this lead. He's in, you know what it is? You're right. He's got this swagger about it.
Yes.
Now, the only other guy in the league that has that, and I believe it's 100% true, is Connor Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck gave up 6 in the opening night. I don't know if you heard his media. He's like, felt good. They weren't I didn't really allow a bad goal. Those guys can give up a touchdown and it's in one ear, out the other. They don't care. Where me, I wouldn't sleep for 3 days and, I would have 24 Bud Light. Who knows what I would be doing, but I wouldn't be like these guys, how composed. The other thing, too, is they're both big goalies.
Yeah.
Swayman's edges are a little bit better. So if you look at his butterfly and so a couple times there's been really good scrambles or big scrambles around the net, and you see him, he's in complete splits, and he's strong on it, and he holds it. Whereas Allmark, there's a little bit more scramble to him, but he has the flexibility as well. Swayman's edge work, I think, is a little bit better than Allmark's.
Noodles, they always say this about players. Certain players are elite because they're able to read the play. I find Swayman really reads what the Leafs are doing well. Like he anticipates, and you can just tell he understands the position, and he's just got that. All the great goalies have, right? They anticipate, and they're already there. To me, he just seems like he's a little bit better than Allmark.
Yeah, but the crazy part is Allmark won the Vezina last year.
I know. So I know. What are we debating here?
So, and that's the other part too, right? You have a Vezina Trophy winning goalie on your bench, which leads me to a point with Ottawa's goaltending. Jamie, do you do something with the goaltending? Do you leave it as is? They're both obviously signed for next season.
Right.
And that leads me kind of with the Allmark thing of Linus Allmark is signed for 1 more year. So they don't have to move anybody in Boston, but it seems like they're going to have to do something. He has a 15 team no trade list. I'm assuming Ottawa may be on that. Would Linus Allmark, would you go after him if he was available, or are you going to stick to the 2 guys you got here, hoping that things turn around?
Well, I think Korpisalo is the guy that they committed to, and when you look at it down the stretch, I think they made the decision to go, you're going to play and go sink or swim, because this, I think one of our broadcasts was he had surpassed his most games played. So it must have been
career
game
high.
40, right? It was game 40. I think we made a big deal about it. We're like, this is the most he's ever played. And he ended up getting to 55, as you see there. And, they're paying him to be a 1A. I've always, at the start of the season, now coming back off the double knee injury there, I thought Forsberg did a good job of, because you never know. You never know if it's in your head. Like you never know if you're the same person. They didn't play well. Let's be honest. Like, and now the team in front of them didn't play well as well, because you could make an argument and say, well, why was Korpisalo so good in LA? Well, LA was a very structured, good defensive team, didn't give up a ton of high quality chances. So all you had to do is be a good, solid goaltender and not have to chase the puck. And, oh, by the way, here's a breakaway for you. And here's a backdoor, one-timer. That was rare in LA, how tight they were. As we've seen in Ottawa, there's pockets where they're really dialed in, and then there's pockets where it's dog park defense, where they're chasing the puck around. So to me, I think you come back. No, I think Korpisalo comes back for sure. And I do believe you still see if there's upgrades out there. And what I mean by that, if you believe that you've got money to spend, I'm just getting crazy here. Let's say New Jersey goes after Markstrom again, and they make Jake Allen available. And Allen's got 1 year left on his deal at 3.8 or something. And it's close to Forsberg's money, but you do something and you just want to change that position for a different look, a different guy, all of that. Like, I think one of them's coming back for sure. I'm not committed to both of them, just based on if you're looking for upgrades, which this organization needs to continue to do, is upgrade in everywhere. I think outside of the few players we call the spine of the team, everything's on the table for this management group, and it should be. But it doesn't mean that they don't have great framework, great contracts for a lot of these guys. But, I've said this all along. I believe the fourth line should be veteran guys, should be the Trevor Lewises and the Nola Charis and guys like that will help settle a game down when it's 3-1 in Arizona and you give up, stuff like that. Like, I did that 6-game road trip that in the end basically cost DJ's job and all of that. And in every one of those games, Ottawa was up and feeling good about their game. And the immaturity, they couldn't, how fragile they were. There wasn't people that could grab the game and go, we're fine here. Yeah. So maybe more veteran help, maybe a different look in net, different mixes on the back end. You guys know I'm bullish on Ottawa. I think they've got some framework pieces that are fantastic, but you got to make the pieces fit together the right way from a chemistry standpoint and from a maturity standpoint. And I think that goes hand in hand. So there is a lot of work to be done here, but I think they're dealing from a position of strength for some of those players who are really good players, and they're 21, 22, 23.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had Drake Matheson the other day, and one of the things I don't know if you remember this, Wally, one of the things that Drake said near the end was, how does this team kind of switch things up? And he kind of alluded, a couple older guys wouldn't be a bad thing involved in this, not only in the locker room, but on the ice. I'm with you on that, Noodles. Just, from playing, there's just guys that know how to, things are getting rough. We need a shift. We need a shift right now, guys. Somebody to go on the ice and just settle this game down. And I'm not talking about a fight. I'm just talking about playing the right way. You've been in the league for 6, 7, 8 years. You understand it, and you know what it takes. And Ottawa's just missing that right now.
Well, they do, because I think we could all see there were nights you looked at the Claude Giroux's face, and he had done it so much, right? Yeah. Like, he's the guy. You can't be the voice every night of reason and go, guys, like I've been telling you. And then Brady, gets on tilt because he just wants it so bad. Yeah. He starts chasing it, and guys, follow me. I've got in, and he's just a one-man wrecking crew. But sometimes less is more. As a goaltender, you can't. I learned this early. You can't stop the puck harder. It's actually counterproductive. I can work to position, but then I get worked up and I start open holes. I want to try so hard, but you got to try smart. And there were nights where it's like, okay, we're trying so hard, but we're not using it with our heads.
Exactly.
And then we're getting in trouble. And to me, veteran players can say, guys, breathe. We're fine. And a lot of that too, it goes hand in hand with coaching and system. You can rely on your structure. There's a lot of things to get sorted out here, and, hiring the right coach too, to implement some accountability, that structure, and say, this is how we're playing, and it's non-negotiable, and everyone buys into it. And and maybe the coach has a hand in some of the player acquisitions as well. Like kind of like Rick Tocchet. I think I talked to Rick Tocchet this year in Vancouver, and I think he kind of was in on, hey, we're going to go get some veteran kind of longer D on the back end, and it was Cole and guys like that. It's like grizzled vets got added into the mix of their talented players, and they kind of took off.
Yeah,
makes me think of would Josh Bailey have made a difference when they had him in as a PTO at the beginning of the season?
He looked all right. He looked all right for the day and a half he was there or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was a thin, he was thin tryout. Like I think he played 2 games, and I think I called him. Was he out? I think he was out east.
Yes. Yeah, he went to the
Yeah.
And he looked good, but they had no cap space.
Yeah, no spot for him, unfortunately.
Okay, so last question before I let you go, and that's because I got a million of them, but I want to get to coaching. I know almost every candidate that's out there. Is there one that you look at and goes and think that's the perfect fit for Ottawa? Like, is it Craig Berube?
Okay, I played with Craig.
Yeah.
I love him. I talk to guys in St. Louis all the time. They loved him. I don't know if you saw recently on that TNT interview. I think it was Biz and them interviewing Luke Shen's brother. What is it? What's it? Braden Shen?
Braden Shen, yeah.
And him just saying like the guys miss you, Chief, loving him, all of that type of stuff. Like he's a player's coach with accountability.
Yeah.
I'm gonna allow me to get crazy here. Do you want me to get crazy?
Yes.
Again, I feel like Batman.
Rod Brindamore doesn't have a deal for next year.
Noodles. Ottawa native.
Heard it up.
I'm just saying. Now listen, I'm sure because I think Carolina could win the cup. They're that good. Like they're that deep. But I'm just saying Rod Brindamore does not have a contract. I was told that yesterday, which blows my mind. And he's had the hometown discount and all of that. But like you get to a point if you got to shop the market. I had Todd McLennan. I know Todd very well. Love Todd. He's got new school and old school mixed in. I had Joel Quenneville in St. Louis. Obviously, there's hurdles to go there, but there's some great coaches out there. Gerard Gallant. But if I just had a wish list, and what maybe who's tied to the organization. Everyone talks about John Gruden. I went to the Marlies game on Sunday because one of my best friends is Gruden's assistant. So I went and sat in the coach's room with him afterwards. John's a good coach, and I think he's got ties to Steve and all of that. Mm-hmm. So there's great coaches out there. It's got to be the right fit for these players at this time. So it has to have a component of accountability. And the reason why I keep coming back to Craig Berube or getting crazy with a Rod Brindamore, I think of those Vancouver players. And Yorkie, you weigh in on this. You're sitting on the bench. That Vancouver team, and the coach is going, I need you to forecheck. And you look back and you see Rick Tocchet's face staring at you.
Yeah.
1,400 games. His nose is on sideways. He's fought the game. He's done everything. He's a hell of a person and a player. There's just that level of like, that guy's been there and done that.
100%.
And I, I'm going to go through the wall for him. And if I don't, I know that I'm going to be in the stands. So I think there's got to be that component where it's like a coach that just is able to grab this team, metaphorically and go, this is how we're going to play. And I need you all to play like this. And yes, Timmy, you're a skilled guy. I'm going to give you a longer leash than Parker Kelly, but we still have to play within that structure. So that's why I keep coming back to Craig Berube and or a Brindamore type of guy. What that is like hardworking, demands, respect, accountability, all that type of stuff.
It does go a long way. And I'll take it back to when I won an American League championship. I don't know if you ever encountered Barry Melrose as a coach.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't have him as a coach, but I know Barry well. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Talk about holding guys accountable. Mind you, this was early 90s. So you could do a few more things to the guys to get them going. Like, we almost had fisticuffs in the dressing room a few times if guys didn't play the right way. We had to hold Barry back a couple times, but we were expected to play a certain way. And if you didn't, there was going to be a consequence. And we ended up winning a championship because everybody bought in. And at different times, you can't really grab guys by the scruff anymore
Yeah.
Take him around.
No, yes,
Um,
obviously.
Yeah, but no, and Barry had played the game, right? He'd played the game. He'd been a defenseman, hard-nosed defenseman. And, one of the best coaches I had in Ottawa as an assistant was Craig Ramsey.
Yeah,
And Craig,
really smart, really smart.
the little stuff that he taught our forwards on the forecheck, and this was long before people were talking about, you hear it all the time now, he has a good stick, active stick. He was teaching that stuff back in the late 90s, early mid 90s. And our forwards, we won so many games just on little details that other teams weren't doing. And to me, whoever Ottawa brings in, I think needs that component. I agree. Motivation, accountability, but also details of those little things that separate the good teams from the not so good teams. Like I just think that's so vital.
This is why I think it's important. And I believe, like, I'm a big McLennan fan. Like, I got to spend a little time with him. He's a wonderful person, but he's passionate about his team. But I think he's got deep enough pockets that he's going to, like, and I love, I've said this a million times. He has this saying, best in class. So he's going to go and get the best person available. And I don't think he's worried about, is that going to be too much? Matty Nico, he goes and gets guys like, hey, like, he's building up on and off the ice. And to me, you talk about the details. He's going to get a great, head coach, but he's going to spend on assistant coaches or associate coaches that are going to build out your program. That's what I did this last year when Brad Treliving took over in Toronto. I went, because I played junior with Tree and we're become pretty good friends and all that. And I looked at his front office staff. I just counted on the website how many people work there, coaches, trainers, all 144 people work for Toronto Maple Leafs. And I did the same thing for the Ottawa Senators start of the last year.
Yeah.
It was like 43 people, including Chris Moore and BMO. And like it was, that's how many people were there. Michael Andlauer has the resources to build out, and he's going to build up. And they're going to add to the scouting staff, add to the coaching staff, add to everything. So this program is going to build out. You don't have to be the Toronto Maple Leafs and have 3 people to make a shake and do all of these things. But you also don't, to me, they're going to have the resources. And I think Michael Andlauer is going to, and Steve Staios and Pooley and Ryan Bonus, everybody who gets involved is going to find the right person and the right staff to build out. And a lot of them might be sitting there. Like Alfie, like, what a great resource. Like, I don't know how many times I looked over him, see Alfie, like, have a Hall of Famer, like, pointing the detail out. And, like, you need guys like that you need people in your organization. I just think you need more of them. That's what it is. They need to build out.
Well, did Ottawa, when was that, Wally? They had by far the smallest hockey ops staff in the NHL. It wasn't even close.
Yeah. And their analytics guy was part-time.
Yes.
Right. Elias, I think.
Elias. Yeah. I stay in touch with him. He's a great guy. He like works for the government. He's like, just does analytics on the side type of thing. Like now they got
just wild. The Toronto Maple Leafs had, I think, 5 at one point.
No. The number is like 17, something like that. Like it's a high number. Now Kyle Dubas hired that staff, right?
Yeah.
It's a large number.
I was shocked. Because I normally never did any Toronto games when I was working for Sportsnet, but I went to a practice one time. I forget why I was in town, but I counted the people on the ice at a pregame skate. There was like 3 guys with iPads doing stuff. It was after the practice had ended. There were a couple skating coaches, about 7 assistant coaches. I think there was more coaches in tracksuits than players.
Yeah, they have 9 development people that are like readily at like. That's why they practice at MasterCard, where there's 4 rinks, because they're constantly pulling players, especially at the AHL level, pulling a player, going work on skills and stuff like. But it's sometimes it's too much. Sometimes a guy just needs to go practice for 30 minutes and go and have lunch and relax and get his mind on the game the next day, or get his mind on something else. Like you can't just. Sometimes it's paralysis by overanalysis.
Yes, fair enough. 100%. Fair enough. But there's no question Ottawa needs more. Okay, Noodles. You brought up Joel Quenneville, and it's not a topic we talk about a lot. I'm just curious, are we past everything now? I know he's not reinstated by the league, but are we at the point where he can be accepted back into the National Hockey League? I don't know the answer. I think he's a brilliant hockey coach. And certainly when you see someone of that stature out there, you're like, man, it'd be good to have him behind the bench. I don't know outside of that if he's welcome back, but would you put him behind the bench again? Are we past everything?
I think so he's only done one interview, and it was with Andy Strickland, and I watched it, and then I sent Q a note after. Like, Q was one of my favorite coaches. And yes, like, you can separate, even like, it was awful what happened. There's, I think there's a lot of things that have changed in hockey because of that situation for the good. It's unfortunate that Kyle Beach had to go through that. And Q actually talks about it and says, like, I wish I was more educated about it. I wish I would have paid attention. I wish I would have spoke up. Like, he owns it. And to me, I think sometimes when you ask for forgiveness, like, he's not deflecting, going, yeah, Stan Bowman threw me under the bus. McDonough threw me under the bus. He's saying, like, I needed to be better in that situation, but I promise you, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I was trying to win a Stanley Cup. But at the end of the day, mistakes were made. He admits he made mistakes. To me, I think he'll get reinstated. I don't know where. And I think education helps people be better. Like, that's the one thing. We want to judge, which we all have made. I live in a glass house. I don't throw stones because I've made mistakes. But I think if you can get better and help and shine a light on it, I think he does get reinstated. It has to be the right situation, though, too, because he's a hell of a coach. He really is. Yeah. But again, you get out in front of it, you disarm people with the truth, and you say, you know what, we made mistakes here. I want to be better. I've shined a light on it. I'm going to do what I can, but I want to move forward instead of looking back. I think it'll happen, but I don't know what setting. I can't tell you what setting.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That was really well said, by the way.
Just an interesting name that's out there. Anyway, Noodles, I know you got a show to do, so I appreciate your time. Thank you for stopping by. I look forward to the urinal story today in the show.
You really gonna do? Are you gonna leave me alone with this guy for the next 20 minutes?
I don't know. I could stay for another 4 minutes if you'd like. Because
okay, all right then. So here's my question.
Yes, I need another one.
Eric Brandstrom, is he on your team next season with the Ottawa Senators?
Okay, so this is an interesting one because I like Eric, and I think we've seen him develop in front of our eyes. He's got more confidence skating, uses his body. The question is, if this is a copycat league and you're seeing teams that have success on that third pairing, they have trees, they don't have shrubs. So that's that is the biggest takeaway. Yes. Is if he's going to play on the third pairing, he's got to be, a physical type. Like, that's why I think, Clevin is going to push through, because he's a big monster and kind of like, that stay-at-home Nicholas Hague type of player. But that doesn't mean that Brandstrom can't play the right side. But I still think there's going to be I don't know how you guys feel. I think they're trading a defenseman, a left shot defenseman.
Noodles, I think 100% one of the, on this blue line next year, Zub staying here, Sanderson staying here. One of Shabbat or Chikrin will probably get traded. I think it's going to be Chikrin. And I think they're going to have to get another right shot D to come in and play in that top four via trade or via free agent. That's your top four. Clevin slides in. So to your point, are you comfortable with Brandstrom in the third pairing? You can make all kinds of comparisons. You can look at the Boston Bruins, for example. Look at Grzelcyk there. He's not the biggest guy.
Right.
He's their puck mover in a little bit of different role. But they've got so many big trees on that blue line already. And that's the problem with Ottawa. It's just, where do you want to be as a team? And they need more of those big, long guys back there. Like, one of the best players in the playoffs right now, and nobody's talking about, is Brandon Carlo. Like, how good is this guy?
6'5", shut plays down and advances the puck and can make a play offensively.
Great shot.
Yeah, exactly. The unfortunate part, and I think this is what they wanted in a perfect world, is Travis Hamoniuk's game not to drop off.
Exactly.
Then you've got that veteran guy who's a good guy in the room, solid, could settle things down, works hard, block shots, all of that. He would have been able to settle things out. So if you had Giroux up top, up front, and a guy like Hamoniuk on the back end, that might add a little stabilization. Hamoniuk's game had just dropped off, that you couldn't, they didn't put him in by the end. But if you could find a younger Hamoniuk, a Tanev, guys like that, you find somebody that you can either sign or trade for to bring in that can play in your top four, who's a grizzled vet who plays the right way, because you've got guys that handle the puck. You're right. If you end up moving out Chychrun, you still got Sanderson and Shabbat that can go and advance the puck. You need some stabilization. Artem Zub maybe can get pushed down to 4 instead of playing in the 2 hole. Like if you could find a big upgrade there and solidify that top 4, now all of a sudden you can make a decision on a Brandstrom if it's Clevin, or you find another long, maybe cagey the Joel Edmondsons of the world, guys like that, who've been there, done that, and play a certain type. But I think they are going to, again, I come back to you, deal from a position of strength, because Chychrun is, if you move him or if you move Shabbat or whoever you decide, you're going to get something back for them.
Oh, yeah.
And something attractive. So that's where, again, big decisions to be made, but you're not dealing like, you're not San Jose. Like San Jose's got a bunch of picks but I don't, there's no spine of the team there. You're trying to move Couture out. Like there's nothing to build from. You're starting from scratch. That's not the case in Ottawa. Like they got to just shape around that group.
Well, just think about how attractive Ottawa's just got too much of the same thing. Like a lot of teams are looking for a guy to quarterback their power play. Just so happens Ottawa's got 3 of those guys, and they're all left shots.
Well, and they're all under contract, so you can get value for them. So I 100%. I think it's about sorting it out, but making the right decision and not a rash decision. I've heard people talk about they got a bunch of great pieces, but do the pieces fit together? Right. And that's what seemed to not fit. Is they were trying to force, hey, this left shot can go over here, and maybe we can have this, and it just never. And then Shabbat's injuries, you couldn't get him, consistently. Maybe asking a little bit too much from Jake, and then Chychrun was kind of, touch and go. I think Chychrun got really going after the trade deadline, after kind of he just relaxed and played. Yeah. At that point, the playoffs were too far gone.
Yeah.
Here's something for your show to talk about today. The Bruins on this date in 2018 became the first team in NHL history to trail 3 times before winning Game 7 as they entered the third period, trailing the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-3. So you can bring that up because I'm sure your listeners in Toronto would love to be reminded of that one.
I'm not here to poke nerves today. I'm going to be just like, it's all nice. It's one game. Let's relax. All of that type of stuff. I've got enough, people that are upset, I'm sure, in 15 minutes. They don't need me poking people. But
the officiating would be a huge topic today, for sure.
You know what? You're right. But on both sides, like the Leafs had 5 power plays last night. They didn't have 1 or 2. They had 5. They were 0 for 5. So if your power play scores 2 of 5, you're not talking about a loss today, probably. So there you go.
And if Brad Marchand tripping Tyler Bertuzzi takes you out of your game, that's another issue.
Listen, they both deserved a call on that because Bertuzzi dove in the air to he actually did a little, and so be it. Good on them. They're both trying to draw. They're both trying to get under each other's skin. But keep in mind, everyone's going to talk about that. They better talk about the wrist shot that Frederick scored on from just inside the blue line on the boards.
Oh, yeah.
You can't allow that goal in the playoffs. I'm sorry. So, there's goaltending's got to get their act together. A few of them.
Yes. All right, Noodles. We look forward to it. Enjoy your day. Say hi to our good friend Jeff O'Neill, who doesn't like to return my text messages.
I think he got a new phone. He doesn't return my text messages.
Take care, Noodles.
Thanks for having me.
All right, see you, pal. Love Noodles. All right. By the way, for those who don't know, he has a book out called The Best Seats in the House, written by Ian Mendez. It's great to listen to. If you read, I'm sorry.
I tweeted out today that Noodles was going to be on the show, and people read the tweet really fast. Well, they're like, nudes, because all the bots.
Whole different show.
There's so many bots now on X. It's
coming in hot. Nudes. Okay.
Nudes.
Before we get any further, some business to take care of. This show proudly presented by BEI, our good friends in the Ottawa Valley. Equipment rentals, aggregate topsoil sales, custom crushing and screening. Also, don't forget BEI Homes if you're looking to buy a home in the Cobden area. BEI is a heavy civil general contractor helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Give them a call, 613-432-1120 or bonishirexcavating.com. Oh, and by Douglas, if we have it. But
Yo, there we go.
ah,
There we go. Yeah, can't forget about our good friend Douglas Mattress. Wally, he's got that unrivaled comfort, feel, motion, sleep isolation, sleeps cool, relieves pressure points, and it's a great value. Loved by more than 200,000 Canadians and over 10,000 5-star reviews. You can order it online very easily. Usually comes in 1 to 4 business days. Every mattress order comes with a comfort sleep bundle, pillows, sheets, and a mattress protector. Don't wait. Start your 365 night sleep trial by visiting douglas.ca/CIH.
all right. Speaking of getting a good sleep, I met you. You're in Florida. You are probably sleeping like a baby.
Oh, I slept great last night. A couple old fashions before bed.
Oh, yeah.
After we went to see at the table.
Well,
A boat ride later tonight, Wally, and then
man.
it's like Pleasantville here.
I hope you brought your AG1 with you. So Yorkie, any surprises for you in the playoffs? Oh, sorry. Before we get any further, before the Toronto Marlies and the Belleville Senators are currently in round 1 of the playoffs. Belleville winning last night 3-1 over the John Gruden coached Toronto Marlies.
Yeah.
The shots were 38-18 for the B Sens, by the way. So game 2 is tomorrow in Toronto. There is a bus going down from Belleville. You can check them out on BellevilleSens.com or BellevilleSenators.com. And I think it's $65 or something to that effect if you want to go down and take it in the game. So just wanted to point that out. Good luck to the B Sens, who I got a text from a player says they are buzzing right now. So
Yeah, playing well.
yeah. All right. So playoffs.
Yeah. What's your question?
Any surprises for you right now in the postseason of the National Hockey League?
It's a great question. Do you know what's always surprising to me? I don't know if it's surprising how much better Nathan McLennan is than everybody else on the ice.
Oh my God. He's so good.
He's going to win the MVP this year, by the way.
Yorkie, he should. I think you need to preface this because sometimes it doesn't always go the way it should.
I think he's going to win. And nothing against it. Listen, Connor McDavid, Kucherov, outstanding years. It's a tough thing to pick. If I had a vote, I would vote for McKinnon.
I agree. I agree. He's the best player. I just don't know that people necessarily watch all the games in the West because it's a very heavy Eastern media group. Furthermore, Connor McDavid was only one of 4 players to ever record 100 assists in a season.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool stat with 100 assists. I know there's the argument with Kucherov's empty netters, and he's not great defensively, doesn't play that hard defensively.
He still scored 144 points or whatever.
Hey, listen, he's one of the best players in the world. I do not disagree. There's just a different sense when Nathan McKinnon's on the ice. Like everything changes. It's just, who was I talking to the other day about it? I was talking to a defenseman that plays against him, and was I talking to you? Somebody was talking to Jake Sanderson, and Sanderson was saying hardest guy to defend in the league right now, without hesitation, Nathan McKinnon, and that's coming from one of the players. Yeah, it's just because it's because he's almost as fast as McDavid, and this was Sanderson's reasoning. Almost as fast. It was one of my buddies who was at the Sens Gala, and Jake came over and he was really great. He was awesome to their table, and somebody asked him the question and about who's the toughest guy to play against. And he did not hesitate. It was Nathan McKinnon, and it was because he can not only go around you with speed, he can also go through you. And that's a pretty intimidating thing as a defenseman when the guy's that big, that strong, that fast, that good. There's just so many different variables. So for me, surprises again, how much better he is than everybody else. The Oilers, I thought they were going to keep rolling, and LA beats them last night. So pretty crazy turn of events. Islanders hanging in there with Carolina. It's
I don't know that they're hanging in there.
It's 1-1.
We'll see game 3. It's 2-0.
I wouldn't count the Oilers out. Sorry,
I'm concerned about Vancouver and Thatcher Demko being out.
That's a concern. That's definitely a concern.
Nashville, man, they're arguably the hottest team in the league going into the playoffs, if not without question.
They're opportunistic. They're pesky. They don't give you a lot. And look at the players they're dealing with. You look on paper, that series shouldn't even be close. So,
Right.
yeah, it's just the playoffs have been really good. Let's be honest. Anybody that watches hockey a lot, I'm sure would agree. The first round is always the best. It's such good hockey. It's fast. Guys are fresh.
And it's constantly on.
Guys aren't hurt yet. It's on all the time. It's been really good. And I've been trying to watch as much as I can. And best series to watch so far, though, for me is the Colorado series.
Yes. If you're Colorado. So here's the thing with Vegas is people are all upset. Oh, no, I guess that's the Dallas series. I'm sorry.
You're thinking Dallas, yeah.
Is that people are upset that they have to play Vegas in the first round because they get Mark Stone back and they're over the cap and all this stuff. But if you want to win the Stanley Cup, you have to beat the best regardless of what round it is.
Yeah,
so it goes. I don't like the argument.
Yeah, and by the way, Stone was legitimately hurt. Like a lot of people that don't think he was, he had a ruptured spleen. Like he was legitimately injured with a very serious injury for a long time, and just everyone's just thinking that they're circumventing, but just hey, it is what it is. They're using the rules the right way.
So, side story to that, my kid was like, I don't know, 10, had an enlarged spleen just at playoff time, wasn't allowed to go on the ice, couldn't be touched. So I understand, like,
it's very dangerous.
That's a serious
injury. You can die if you.
Yes.
You can
yes.
Die. Like, not only are you going to get injured, you could die.
That's what they said. You can't go on the ice. You're like, what are you talking about? He's like, if you fall down and you could die anyway.
Yeah.
So I do understand the spleen injury. Okay. Last question before we go. The NHL Utah team is without a nickname, Yorkie. There are 8 finalists apparently at the moment. The Mammoth, the Yetis, the Venom, the Hockey Club, if you will, Blizzard, Ice, Fury, and Outlaws. By the way, Ottawa has had the Fury and Outlaws as 2 of its nicknames in professional teams in Ottawa.
There's some of the other ones. I think I heard Sister Wives thrown out there and playing on the old. I've seen that one out there a lot.
So
I put me in the Yetis thing. I got a Yeti cup. I love it.
Well, so I think that's a marketing problem for the Utah team. I don't think they can pick Yetis based on that. You're just promoting a company at that point, aren't you? So
no, nothing keeps my drink colder. My beer is always frosted.
You need one of those 18-liter Stanley mugs, apparently.
Yeah, those are good too. That name to me sounds the best. I don't know. What do you like?
I do like it. I did right away. I thought that would be great because the mascot would be fun and all that. I'm leaning towards the Mammoth.
Would the mascot be like a giant Yeti cup, just with hands coming out?
No, it's gonna be So I think Colorado has a Sasquatch, right, as their
do they
mascot? I think so. Yeah. So it might be. I don't know what they would come up with, but I think it's got to be something to that effect.
All I know is it's how stoked are those players right now getting the hell out of a rink where they're playing in front of 5,000 fans. I know the weather is great in Arizona and all that, and they like living there, but at the end of the day, they're hockey players. You want to go somewhere where you're playing in front of a full house.
Look at the reception.
Oh, I think it's going to be fantastic. It's a pretty cool market too, and it looks like the ownership group is super engaged, super pumped. To me, it looks like I know people are upset because they want to see Quebec and some other things, but I do think this will work extremely well in Utah.
The only thing about the Canadian expansion with Quebec is, and same thing with like a team in Hamilton or outside of Toronto, there has to be enough corporate sponsorship to support it.
It's just so much money in the States, and everybody knows it's so expensive to go to hockey games. It's a lot of money. It's a big commitment. It's just it is what it is with some of those situations. Some of those cities are just like you said. It's easier to sell out your building.
Which shocks me, by the way, because Arizona, I think, is the 6th largest city in the U.S.
Yeah,
and they couldn't, but there's a number of reasons why they didn't make it work. One was where they kept putting the building out in Glendale and all that stuff. But I was shocked that they couldn't figure it out.
there's so much stuff said about the ownership there that it just wasn't the right fit, and it was just a bad.
But it's been multiple owners.
Yeah. What was the main reasoning for trying to keep it there? It was all about because their TV market was so large.
The market size, yeah.
Market size of the television. They thought that if they ever could have captured that, it could have been a home run. But I just think when they had their window and their opportunity, they just let the rink sit out in Glendale for so long. And at the end of the day, those type of markets, you have to win. You have to win. Like, look at Florida. They're now doing much better because they won. Tampa, because they won. Carolina, because they won. If you just go that long without winning, it's usually not going to work.
Fair. Did you notice, though, at the end of the season in Florida, I forget who they were playing, but it was one of the last couple of games, and here they are, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League.
It's pretty empty.
Yes.
But now watch the playoffs. It's buzzing in there, and it's because it's kind of a Florida thing, like Fort Lauderdale. It's people want to be where the scene is. I remember I went to a playoff game there a couple of years ago, and it was jammed. They had everybody there because they want to be seen. They want to be at the cool place. Everyone's talking about it, and that's a big reason for it in that market. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's a big commitment to go to 41 home games, and when you're in a climate like that with all kinds of different options, it's tough. Like, it's tough.
Should they be downtown Miami?
Downtown Miami?
Would it? I don't know. Would it not be better? But I can't. I don't know in that market.
Miami's kind of a shithole, though. Like, it's not the best of spots. Even South Beach now, Wally, has gone down the tubes. It's a lot of crime. It's not safe. It's not the best spot, but I don't know. It's
just Fort Lauderdale's in the middle of nowhere. You know what the rink is like.
It's not good. It's not good. The best rink, the best location though for those teams is Tampa. Tampa's rink, like where that is.
But it wasn't. Remember, there was nothing around that when they first went there. It was just a bunch of empty parking lots.
Yeah, they built up around it.
Jeff Vinnick, the owner, built it all up. He did a fantastic job. It's amazing there.
I went there with my buddies as a fan once. We went down to Tampa and we went to a game. And I've told the story. We went to the game and we never made it out of the Bud Light zone, which is basically a patio outside of the rink. Yes. And the best part is my buddy Joe, we're in the Bud Light zone, and the waitress comes over. She's like, "Can I get you guys some beers?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll have a Coors Light." And she looks at him. She's like, "You know you're in the Bud Light zone, right?"
Yeah, I'll take a Bud Light. So Rick Dudley, in the only game, the first game I ever went to as a fan was in Tampa. I was still covering the Sens, and Rick Dudley had just gotten the job as the GM in Tampa when he got traded for Rob Zaminer, if you will.
Oh yeah.
He gave me tickets to go to the game. We got two practice. So Lisa, my wife, and I went, and the team lent us two practice jerseys to wear. So we sat in the stands as two Sens fans watching the game in Tampa. It was amazing. He gave us the lounge. It was great. Anyway,
beautiful.
Rick Dudley. I'd like to get him on.
We can probably get Rick on. He was in Ottawa when I was there for a little bit. But anyway, I got a boat cruise to go to in an hour.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, we got a TikTok here.
Yeah, so, all the best. Enjoy your boat cruise. We'll look forward to the pictures. Are you home Monday?
I'm home Sunday night, yeah.
Okay, good. So we'll see you on Monday, everybody. Take care. Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.